welcome to another episode of Get Ready. Very happy today to introduce you to a longtime friend of mine. We've known each other for quite a few years now and have done some tapping together. So let me tell you a little bit about my friend, Tamara Donn. So Tamara is an award-winning author, parenting mentor, international speaker, EFT master trainer, and family constellator. Her book, Frazzled to Fabulous in 5 Minutes a Day, is the essential book for moms who are fed up with feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and exhausted, and want to learn a brilliantly simple way to stay calm, get more done, and ace the school run without losing it and feeling guilty. It won the Janie Lee Grace Platinum Award. Very cool. Together with her husband, Peter Donn, they run the EFT Training Center, training people to become EFT practitioners internationally. Welcome to the show, Tamara.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. It was so great seeing you when I was in London recently. Great to
It
get
was
together.
great tapping as ever.
Thank you. So I guess the first question, Tamara, is what made you write Frazzled to Fabulous?
Well, it started a few years ago when I ran a 30-day challenge for a few hundred stressed, overwhelmed, and exhausted mums. And what I did is I gave them a 5-minute video to do every single day for 30 days. And up until that point, I'd been working one-to-one with mums. And of course, when you work one-to-one, you get great results. But I wasn't expecting the phenomenal results that I got from 5 minutes of tapping a day. And I know that your audience already know how great 5 minutes of tapping a good day is. But I had to be convinced at that point. And so basically, we tapped on things like being stressed, overwhelmed, exhausted, feeling guilty, anxiety, all the things that stressed mums would be feeling.
Those are things that mums regularly feel? Oh, I never.
Um, Sadly, very sadly, yes. Like think about the school run. You know, they wake up exhausted, thinking about their to-do list and being woken up in the night, and then they just reach for the coffee, and then they have to get their kids into the car into school, and the kids aren't cooperating, and they shout the kids, they lose it with their kids, and they feel like they've done a whole day's work just arriving at school late again, and then they feel guilty about that. So it's kind of like this vicious circle that
I
I
feel like I
noticed.
have to tap just even listening to you run
Yes,
through that.
I
It's like
know.
I feel stressed just hearing about it.
I know. It's overwhelming, and so this program that I created, the 30-day challenge, helped mums to overcome it. And mums used to say, "I feel like a new person as a result of doing that." But what and so they felt calmer, they more connected with their kids, etc., etc. And so it did what it said it would do on the tin. But what really surprised me was the unexpected side effects. So I've stopped needing that glass of wine or bar of chocolate at the end of the day, and we never tapped on cravings. I've stopped spending money on myself to make myself feel better because I feel so good. We never tapped on money. Husband's been saying, "What have you been doing? Because you seem so happy now." So external validation and aches and pains disappearing, and so many different things. In fact, just I think it was a couple of weeks ago, one mum shared with me how she was suffering from severe migraines, and even though she was on this antidepressant medication for migraines, but she wasn't depressed, um, that would kind of take the edge off them. She was still having such severe migraines, like 3 times a month, where she'd have to go to bed and stop being a mum and stop working. That after just 3 weeks of doing 5 minutes of tapping a day and literally on nothing to do with migraines, they'd disappeared. And it's just incredible when you take those 5 minutes out of your day and do something to shift it, like tapping. Well, obviously we're going to promote tapping, aren't we? and and so when those results came in, I was just, okay, this has to be a book. And so I went and I procrastinated a lot, I tapped a lot, and eventually I published my book last year, and I was really pleased about it. So that's how it all got going. And people have test driven the book, they've read the book, I've got feedback, like I've got loads of videos of people talking about how they responded to the book. And now it's also I've just launched a program so that they can not only read the book, but they can also see the videos, and it takes them deeper because it's an ongoing club. It's called the Frazzle to Fabulous Mums Club. So that's how it all started.
Excellent. I love all the other testimonials about the different benefits that came from, because all of those behaviors and feelings and symptoms that were all caused by stress, and just simply doing something that, even without talking about those other things, without focusing on them, just clearing the stress. It's like, oh, and you know what? I'm also not doing this, and I'm feeling better about this, and other people are noticing it. It's one of those
I know.
fantastic things about it.
And that's what's so incredible. And the thing that I particularly like about the book, because I know lots of people do tapping videos, but I don't know if like you, I once I get onto my phone, I'll start just scrolling here, there, and everywhere, and like an hour later, I'm still on my phone. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
So what I recommend to mums is so the other thing is that mums say is that they don't have any time to do anything different because they're too stressed. So I say, okay, you don't have to do anything different. Just keep the book in the toilet. And when you are on the loo, just literally put little bookmarks on the tapping scripts, which are kind of all like they're kind of grayed out. So
Oh,
you can put
excellent. Yeah.
little stickers on the tapping scripts and just do one a day. First thing in the morning, ideally, but you don't have to create any extra time to do this. And you don't have to take your phone into the loo. I mean, obviously, you can do, and the benefits of watching Brad's videos, I can't even tell you. I mean, saved me many a time. In fact, I've been doing one today, as I told you before. Um, so, but if you don't want to get caught up in social media, because that can be a distraction, then you've got it all on paper as well.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm always recommending daily tapping to folks. To me, it's like it's energy hygiene, just like physical hygiene, like brushing our teeth or taking a shower. Most of us don't wait for a week until people around us are holding their nose and go, oh, that's right, I haven't taken a shower in a while. But with stress, most of us don't have any kind of daily hygiene routine. So, and I think it's a great idea of having, keeping that there with those simple sections. So it's not, it can be difficult to read a novel if you just leave it in the bathroom. Like, where was I? Um, but those simple little prompts that you have in there and suggestions, that it's like, oh, okay, as long as I'm here, let me go through this and do some clearing, and all kinds of release happening.
Absolutely.
Letting go of
Absolutely.
that stuff you no longer need in your body.
Absolutely. And in your mind. Yeah.
Exactly.
Make it elimination of for mind, body, and spirit rather than just.
Absolutely.
But what really made me laugh is when you said, you don't wait until you smell to kind of like have a shower. Can you imagine if stress actually smelt? We would be the smelliest um, human beings, like not t- uh, any type of animal. Yeah, it would be the smelliest animals in the
Yeah.
world because I think that animals probably don't get as stressed as we do.
Not quite the same way. They have natural ways of shedding it, but they're not walking around with a little device that's constantly saying, "Here's something else to be upset about."
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, like you mentioned, habits of we have our daily habits. I think the key thing with habits is to stack good habits on more good habits. So I'm pretty sure that most people watching this brush their teeth every day. And so, you've got a habit there. So then the next habit is just put another good habit. So build the tapping into your good daily habits. So, for example, if you go to the bathroom and you're brushing your teeth, then just spend 5 minutes. If your kids are, and if your kids are wandering around and you're thinking to yourself, I don't have time. My kids are always with me. Get them involved. Don't wait. Don't. do it with them, because that's even better. Okay, it's going to be harder for you because you're not going to be solely focusing on yourself, but it does mean that you can start building it into your life as a family. And what I say, once you've done those 30 days and you've really embedded that into your practice, made it your habit, then the next thing that you can do is start building it into your parenting. So when you notice that you're getting stressed or triggered in some way, then you can do it in the moment. Because when we have stressful moments, we don't try something new. So we have to build a habit first. So if your habit is to shout at your kids or internalize it, or just you end up getting a migraine or something, that's what's going to happen. But if you make tapping your daily habit, then you're much more likely to think about tapping in those stressful moments than you are if it's not your habit. And I call that first aid tapping. It's just nipping the emotion in the bud. No words, just tap, take some deep breaths, um, until the emotion dissipates, and then you can carry on with your day. I know, Brad, you do the mainly the body tapping, but one thing that I think is really useful is also the finger tapping, which is if you put your hand, for those of you who don't know, put your hand horizontally. It's the corner of the nail which is closest to the body. So it's that corner and that corner. I know you know, but maybe some people watching.
Right, right.
And and so what you can do, what I like to do is touch and breathe. And what you do is you put your finger on your thumb point and just take a deep breath. And then your thumb on your first finger and take a deep breath. So you can do this kind of like nobody's going to know what you're doing. It's really subtle. You can do it on the train, on the way to work, anywhere.
Just the other day, I
And
was in the dentist chair, and I'm
yeah,
sitting there. They can't see me, and I'm just tapping my thumb against my forefinger.
yeah. I mean, at the dentist, I'm always just kind of like holding my points and doing some breathing to keep myself nice and
Yeah.
calm. So it's really powerful. So in those stressful moments, you don't really need any words. You can just, touch and breathe, or tap and tap if you want to tap. And then once you've got it into your parenting, then you can start introducing it to your children. And there's a section at the back of the book where I talk about how to introduce it to your children, and for different age groups as well. So the youngest
Excellent.
person I've tapped with was a 4-month-old. That was my little nephew, and we were round at my family, and they were, my sister-in-law was saying that he's not breathing, not feeding, not breathing. Sorry, not feeding properly, and she was a bit anxious about him, and so I just said, "Do you want me to do some tapping on him?" So I ever so gently, obviously like newborn, like just gently, and I didn't use any words. I just kind of like tapped on him very, very, very gently, and within about 5 minutes of tapping on him, he literally kind of like looked interested in, and he latched on and started nursing, had a really good feed. And that's after about 48 hours of like not feeding. In fact, there was one younger one that I tapped. I guess that doesn't count because they were actually in utero. And this, so I tapped on the mum for the baby. So it was like surrogate tapping, and she was in hospital about to give birth, but the baby was breech and she couldn't do that. So she phoned me from the hospital and said, "Can we tap?" And through the tapping, we turned the baby, and she was able to give birth normally. So it's amazing. So that's my youngest child, but
I don't know if Christy told you when we were over in London. Uh, our daughter, who we were over there with, was transverse breech, and the doctors, they were thinking, well, it's going to be a C-section, and somebody recommended going to an acupuncturist, and it was
yeah,
through. So it's the same thing, using the meridians,
yes,
and the baby and our daughter turned. So
amazing.
yeah, that's so interesting that I hadn't heard you tell that story before, but yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible, really, really, really amazing. Like, so I kind of have worked a lot with mums in pregnancy as well. Um, and then just the other day, I tapped with my niece to help her fall asleep, and her mum told me that she really isn't into tapping at all. But then but then all I did was literally I tapped on her finger points, and I didn't say like the usual tapping words. I just said, and just imagine now your feet are just so tired and sleepy, and they're just falling asleep. And then your legs, they're so tired and they've been running around having so much fun, but it's now time to rest them. And then I went through every part of the body. It took about 10 minutes. And then literally she was like out like a light.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So basically I would encourage mums and dads. Sorry to exclude
No,
dads
no,
there.
no, no.
Whoever's doing the bedtime routine, to that's the best time I think to introduce tapping to your children, because it becomes a habit. It's not you're not doing it when they're stressed. You're doing it when they are feeling relaxed. So you introduce it. So you might read them a bedtime story, and then what I suggest is just tapping on their finger. Are you all right there, Brad?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'll just take that moment to remind people that there is a bedtime story about tapping, The Wizard's
Yes,
Wish.
absolutely. Please, yes.
Shameless plug.
No, of course. This is your interview. You can plug as much as you
While
want.
we're here talking about frazzle
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
we should do a special online deal of
We should. Yeah, one for parents, one for
one for the kids.
children. So
But yeah,
while
no,
you're
that's a great time to do that, and I love. I hadn't actually heard that before, but just tapping the points while saying that, because people can get very caught up in, am I saying the words right? And as you said earlier, you don't have to worry about the words, especially if you're already in that frazzled place.
yeah,
The words are to help us get tuned into the emotion, but there are times where we're already tuned in just fine and can use the process to calm us down. But I love that process of tapping the points and just saying, now your feet are getting tired, and so having fun with tap the different points and just feel free to say what might be coming up or what might feel appropriate in that moment, and it's a very flexible tool, and yeah.
100%. Yeah. And something else that I encourage, like, because often like parents do their the bedtime routine, and then I don't know if this has happened to you, Brad, but I know, I mean, it has to me and lots of other parents, that they just leave, they just say good night, child, whatever, and then they're walking out the room, and the child is like, oh, one more thing, and then it's just one more thing and one more thing, and it's just like you're just kind of ready for your evening, and then it's just like one more thing, because they just want a little bit more attention.
Right.
But if you sit with them, and one thing you can do is, like, while you're holding their hand and tapping on them, you can just say, so tell me about your day, and they're telling you about their day, and they're releasing everything from the day. So don't be scared to actually bring up the difficult stuff, that oh, you told me before that the boy in class, he was a bit mean to you. So just bringing that up, and it's okay to let that go now, so that you can start releasing it, so that they don't take that into their sleep. So you can bring that up and let it go, and then let them talk until they kind of like they've talked about their whole day, and that will help them really settle. And then hopefully there won't be that and one more thing. So that's the thing to do. So then once you've made it into your tapping habit with your child, but I would say step one, make it your own habit. Step two, use it when you're stressed. Step three, start tapping with your child when they're calm. And then if there's something happens, that's when you can actually tap with them. You can say, do you remember the thing we do at bedtime? And then you can start tapping either on their faces or just on their fingers, whatever feels most appropriate in that moment. Something that happened to my daughter was she was walking home from school. I can't remember how, she must have been a teenager, I think. She was walking home from school, and she came in as white as a sheet. I said, what happened? She said that as she was walking home, she heard this absolute screech of a car, tires, something, and then a scream of a woman. And when she passed, she saw this woman sitting by the road with her dog, like, injured or dead or something. And she said, I just can't get that sound out of my head. So immediately tap, that can be the start of PTSD, when you have like that kind of like the flashbacks and you can't get rid of them. So immediately we tapped on that sound and that experience. We released it in the moment. And it only took a few minutes. And then she was like, okay, that happened. I can go on to do my homework or whatever she was doing. But it's so powerful to use it in those kind of situations. When she was doing her exams, we used it. I mean, she used it a lot, and I supported her with it when she needed it, particularly when there were like exams on 2 days, it's two exams on a day, or exams back to back. I remember one time there were exams back to back. She came home and she was just like, oh, I really messed up my exam and I have to let go of it so that I can revise for the next exam tomorrow. And so we did some tapping, and the words I kind of used were like, okay, just empty, we did some release about like the disappointment or whatever it was. And then we just did tapping on, okay, your brain can calm down now. Actually, we sent her brain to a brain spa so that it could get totally relaxed, have a really good massage,
I love
and
that.
feel totally refreshed to then start revising for the next exam. And literally, it was 5 minutes. And she'd let it go, ready to move on to the next thing.
I love that, taking your brain to the spa.
Yeah, yeah,
It is. It's a mental massage, and yeah. So the great. Not only using tapping for ourselves as frazzled parents, but having it in your parent toolbox for your kids. It's like, how, we're so worried about our kids, but helping us deal with our worry and then helping them be more successful by,
yeah,
in terms of school, in terms of life, in terms of their emotional regulation.
absolutely. And what happens is we always think we have to work, and we have to help our children. But the biggest help we can be to our children is to sort ourselves out. And I know what it's like when our child is in pain. It's just the worst thing. It feels like the most excruciating pain. And what we do as parents, we think to ourselves without even realizing, I've got to fix my child so
Yes.
that I don't feel the pain. And being a parent, I can say that because I know it in myself. But actually, if we bring that back to ourselves, if we calm ourselves down, then we can actually hold the space for our child to really relax into that. And often the child's problem will start dissipating anyway. So I don't know how much time. I could say a lot more, but I don't know how much time we've got.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Okay, cool. Um,
I often, when I've talked to parents about using tapping with their kids, I say, okay, step one, you tap on yourself first. Because if you're tapping on your kid so that they'll stop being troublesome for you, then it's not a sincere effort for their well-being. You want to, it's like, I need you to be better so that I can feel better. It's like, oh no, I can tap on myself to feel better so that now when I tap for you or with you, it's for your highest good. It's not a self-serving act, which is understandable. Like, obviously, we want to, we have all kinds of reasons for wanting to help our kids. But if we can do our own self work first, then we're in a much better place to have it be an authentic, caring act for the child.
Absolutely, 100%. So, for example, so what happens is like, say this is the parent and this is the child. So the child is going to actually want to know where the boundaries are. So the child is going to push the boundaries because it's not sure where they are. So if the parent is a very strict parent, the parent's going to push back, and that's going to feel really, really horrible. Now, if you've had a childhood where you've been pushed back, then sometimes, not always, sometimes you might make it right. I'm going to give my child everything I didn't have. I had a horrible childhood. I was so controlled. I'm going to give my child everything they need. They can choose everything, complete freedom. And then the child pushes and pushes and pushes, and there's no holding at all, and they feel that, and that can feel very lost. So ideally, the ideal situation is that when the child pushes, you meet with equal and opposite pressure. So it's kind of like this loving holding. But the point is, you can't do this loving holding until you've worked on however you were parented. Now, if in an ideal world you had that loving holding, then the chances are you'll be able to give that to your children. But most of us haven't. Most of us have had either this or this. And so we need to work through our stuff so that we can come to that loving holding place, so that we can really meet our child and help them feel so secure in what's going on for them. Another example, like with my daughter, one this is like the first time she got like so drunk, and I got permission to share this, by the
Oh,
way.
I was just going to say, do you have permission to share this story? She is an
Yeah,
adult.
it's in my book, and I only
Okay.
share things that I do have permission to share because I know what it's like. And so yeah, she got really drunk, and it really triggered me. She got home, and I was like, I was feeling so angry and disappointed, and then I kind of came kind of took a step back and thinking, but I did that too, you know, like how, but that anger was there. So even though I was rationalizing, I was still angry. So I literally did like tap, 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 5 minutes, like not 5 minutes, a minute. And then I could be so present with her because she wasn't in a good state. She needed help.
Right.
And I could be so present with her and so kind of like holding her. And I think the next day she said something like, thank you so much for, for looking after me. And can you imagine, like, if I'd have done, whatever had come up for me, and I'd have shamed her? Like, what would that have caused our relationship? What would that have, beliefs might she have created or confirmed or whatever?
Right.
But no, but I didn't. I was able to center myself. I was able to, um, do that. So I, it's incredible, and I could only do that because tapping is my habit. I
Right.
couldn't have done that had it not been something that I was aware of. So that's why start with your 5 minutes a day, make it your habit. And the most exciting thing about all of this for me is that when you do it yourself, you make it your habit. When you start bringing it into your parenting, you start changing the next generation for good. They grow up with a
Yes.
tool at their fingertips. They are going to be changed people. I've watched my daughter how, like, she hasn't had it from birth, but she's had it from probably about 4 years old. And she's also like now almost a trained practitioner because she was bored in lockdown. She hadn't, so we trained her. One of those kind of fluke things that happen. Um, but she does it with her colleagues at work. She works in a really stressful environment, and she's been tapping with one of the art directors recently. And I know she's got the art director into your videos, so he's doing them every day, actually. So there you go. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
So I don't know where I was
Yeah.
going
So
now.
it's
Changing the next
basically
generation.
tapping. It's a gift for yourself, and it is a gift to your children,
That's it.
which is
And
then a
they
gift to the world because we're setting our kids free into the world, and they're the future. So,
yeah. Absolutely. And just think about all the things that have challenged you, let's say in early adulthood, in teenagers, like exam stress, getting a job, going for a job interview, romantic breakups, all the things that were really challenging in our younger days. They're going to just have that tool to cope with all of that and thrive anyway. So why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you give it to your children? So
so please and thank you.
yeah,
All you parents out there.
yeah.
Well, Cool. Very cool. Well, thank you. Great suggestions. I know that folks will get a lot of benefit out of that. Uh, Pick up the book.
Yes. Pick up the
Links will
book.
be in there will be a link there. And you're still running the moms group, right?
So the Mums Club,
Mums group. Sorry.
yeah. So it's the Mums Club. It's the doors will open again soon. So if you sign up, then I'll tell you when the next launch will be. So
And
it's
that'll
coming
all the information will be at the link that'll be below.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tamara. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for sharing all this great info.
Thank you so much for having me.